listeners! Welcome to episode 197 of eBay the Right Way. Today's date is December 25th, 2024. Yes, Christmas Day. My podcasts always drop on Wednesdays, so I'm just staying consistent here. And this is the last podcast of 2024, pre-recorded, of course. My guest today is Kathryn in Montana. Well, since this is the Christmas Day episode, I'll give you some insight on my Christmas traditions. Mannheim Steamroller's classic Christmas music will be playing all day throughout the festivities, and I will be singing loudly and badly, even though the music doesn't have lyrics. We all know the words to the classic Christmas carols anyway. And if you have never experienced Mannheim Steamroller, well, you just aren't living life to its fullest. My favorite food on the menu today is spaghetti, a new tradition I have adopted because why not? I love spaghetti. It's delicious any day of the year. And not the spaghetti with syrup and candy like in the movie Elf. The regular kind with tomato sauce and meatballs. I say heck with tradition. Eat what you like and be happy. I'll be watching my favorite Christmas movies, which include Little Women and The Bishop's Wife, the 1947 version with Cary Grant. I'm a sucker for old black and white movies. Snacking on Chex Mix, Muddy Buddies, the kind with chocolate and peanut butter. I'll also be enjoying a Claxton fruit cake. They are so delicious and a family tradition. They're made in Claxton, Georgia, which is kind of near Savannah. We pass through the town every summer on the way to the beach at St. Simon's Island. I grew up on these fruit cakes. The bakery dates back to 1910. When I was doing my Amazon grocery business back in 2010 to 2014, I made a killing selling these. I saw them in the grocery store at holiday time, like every year, and wondered if they were on Amazon. The grocery category was kind of new to Amazon at that time, and I was experimenting with a lot of different products. So I looked up the Claxton fruitcakes and they were not on Amazon. I added the listing and was selling these $4 fruitcakes for between $20 and $25. And I sold hundreds of them during 2 to 3 holiday selling seasons, a quite lucrative product until other sellers figured it out and the market tanked because prices dropped and it was no longer profitable. So that is what I have lined up. If you are listening to this on Christmas Day, I hope you are doing what you want and enjoying spending time with those you love. Okay, now for the conversation with Kathryn. Welcome back, listeners. I have Kathryn with us today and a little bit hesitant to come on, but she has a lot of great information to share, and she's been posting on the Money Making Mondays and just have an interesting life. So how are you doing this early morning?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm great. Well, you're mountain time, so it's 9:30 there. Maybe you got up way earlier than this.
I typically get up, I don't know, between 6 and 7. It just kind of depends on the day. It depends on if the kids are up early or if not. Today, nobody woke up till 7 o'clock, so that was a nice
Oh,
sleepy.
good. Okay, and how old are your little ones?
My oldest just turned 5, my middle is 3, and my youngest is 2.
Oh, busy, busy.
Yes, at one point
Okay.
they were all under the age of 3, so those were much busier times than they are now.
A lot of diapers.
Lots of diapers, yes.
Well, I promise you it does end at some
Yes.
point.
I can see the light now. It seems like we were in survival mode for a while. And now it
Yeah.
feels like we're coming out of survival mode. We can take more time to do other things. I'm spending less time glued to the couch with a nursing baby. I'm not changing 400 diapers a day. So things are
Well,
easier.
and looking back after they're grown, it's like, diapers was kind of easier than having teenage
Yes.
drivers. So,
Oh,
you
yeah.
every stage has its challenges.
That's
So,
true. That's true. I guess we'll find that out as we go.
okay, well, let's start off with how you got involved in eBay, when that was.
So it was in May of this year, May of 24. I was in a Facebook group that I think was geared towards like work from home moms. I have a lot of friends that make things and sell things, and they have like a little side hustle because I'm a stay-at-home mom. And I thought, well, I would like to have some little stream of side income. And what can I do? And I found a post where this woman explained how she got started with reselling books on eBay. And she shared her whole process of how she did it. She used an app called Book Scouter where she could scan barcodes. And I think it tells you like the lowest price that it's for sale on Amazon or something like that. And I thought, well, I can do that. So I went through some books that I had. I went to the thrift store. I listed probably 10 or 15 books in the first couple of days. And the first book that I sold for $27. It's called Legion. It's part of the Horus Heresy series. Apparently a sought after book. I think I priced it low, but when it sold and I told my husband, he was like, "We'll do more of that. That's really cool." So then I found somebody selling cross stitch kits on Facebook. And I had started listening to podcasts and YouTube, people talking about how they resell on eBay. And somebody had said they had good luck with cross stitch. So I looked up the comps for these kits that she was selling, and they were astronomical. So I messaged her right away and said, I'll come get these right now. So I drove over there. Two of them were already opened and missing a bunch of parts. One of them was already gone by the time I got there. So I got two of them and listed them that night, and one sold within an hour. I think I listed it at $200 and I got an offer like immediately for 150, and I was so excited I accepted it. And
Right.
looking back, I'm like, I probably could have waited a little longer than an hour, but I didn't care. I was so excited. And then the other one I listed, I think for 38, and it sold that night also. So then I was just really excited. I'm like, okay, I can totally do this. This is something that I can do in my free time. And so it just kind of went from there. And I continued listening and watching and just taking in as much as I could and learning about what types of things sell. And I learned how to do research. I made some blunders in the beginning. I bought books. I wasn't doing good research. I just was looking them up and saying, oh, well, this book, is listed for 20 something dollars, but then getting home and realizing, okay, there's 400 listed and one has sold in the last 90 days or whatever. Or the ones that are listed higher and the ones that have sold for $4 or $5. So I made some mistakes in the beginning, but I've kind of learned from it and just kind of ran with it. And so here I am now. So it's been about 6 months.
Yeah, and I think people forget to look at how many are listed. Like,
Especially in the beginning.
yeah, we're so
You learn.
ingrained in like, what does this sell for? What does this sell
Yes.
for? And like you said, you may look at the solds and $50. But currently there's 900 listed.
Yeah.
So
And that's something that I wasn't looking at was how many were listed. And I got some Bridgerton books and I was like, "Oh, Bridgerton is so popular right now." But then when I actually like got home and did the research, it was like, "Oh, right, but there's like 600 of them listed and they're all selling for $4." So, it's popular right now, but it's a mass market, you know, paperback, so it's not really worth my time. But I have had some good luck with really niche books um, geared towards specific things like clockmaking or I did find a nursing book at Goodwill that I sold for like $68 or something. So that was early on. That was a good one. I found a dental assistant textbook, so that one was a good one. I had a lot of duds in the beginning, and some of them I ended up just pulling off because I was like, this is never going to sell, and if it does, I'm going to make 50 cents. It's just not worth my time. So they went back to the thrift store.
Yeah, books do take some patience to
Yes.
look through them. And I sold books back when they started that on Amazon for several years. And the scouting tools, I mean, they only give you so much information. It's still like the human brain needs to make that decision because
Right.
they'll just show you what they're selling for or what the actives are priced at.
Well, and the app that I was using, this Book Scouter app, I don't use it anymore. I found that it's just not accurate for me. So what I used to do was I would load all my kids up and we would go to Goodwill and we would go to the book section and I would make them a little pile of kid books and they would sit there in the aisle with me and look through the kid books while I was scanning all of these other books. And I would end up with a cart full of books. And then we would go to the toy aisle and they would play with the toys and I would do some research on my phone for the next half an hour or whatever while they
Uh-huh.
played, and I would end up putting almost every single book back once I did the actual eBay research. So even though the app told me this book is selling for $24.98 on Amazon or that's what it's listed for, really there's, it's selling for $12 maybe on eBay, but there's like 60 of them and only 3 have sold, so it's like not worth my time. So that's kind of how I did it in the beginning. And I've gotten away from books now because I have not, it takes a lot of time, I think. And I can't look at a book and just know that it's going to sell really well. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And so I've kind of
Yeah.
gone away from books a little bit, with the exception of like, old leather Bibles. Like I got a Bible at a thrift store. They had a $10 fill your cart to the brim with books. So my mom watched the kids for me while they napped, and I went back down there and filled my cart up with books. And the Bible that I had found sold for $75 in like 2 days. So that covered all of my books. And some of the other ones have sold for not, that was early on. And I don't think I would do that again. It's just not worth it for the small amount of profits that I have made from the rest of the books. The Bible was great, but the rest of them, I could have just left them and I wouldn't be any worse off now. So I've kind of learned that books aren't really my thing unless, it's like textbooks I'll look at or, old Bibles, stuff like that. But that's kind of where I am at with books these days.
Well, I don't know if you heard how it was back in the day when all this started, maybe around 2010, because they came out with the book scouting.
Like
It was
those
like
scanners,
handheld. It was like a handheld device.
I've seen those.
Okay, like a brick cell phone almost that
Yeah.
size. And the thing was, you could scan the barcode and it would tell you what it's listed for on Amazon and how many there were. And you can do a lot of things with that information, and and on the other hand, it's like not enough information. It's not telling you, yes, buy this, because it's all about how much you're paying for it, how many there are available. But people were just crazy about those book scanners. And I would go to library sales, and it was brutal.
I
Um,
bet.
there's people tag teaming, there's one scanning and then he's throwing the book across the room to his partner who's putting him in a bag. And you would just see them at Goodwill just monopolizing the whole book area with their
Yeah.
scanning stuff. And I mean, people were downright rude about it. And I just never really, I had one and I tried it, and it was like you had to connect the device to the computer with a cord and download the newest information every day. If you were going out, whenever you were going out to use that device, you had to update the database inside of it, and it wasn't wireless or anything. It was a cord.
Right.
And you know, I embrace anything new, like, oh, there's a new way to do this, let's see how it works. But it just comes down to the human brain making that decision, because a lot of sellers were intimidated to do books because of these people with these devices. They weren't cheap. They were over $100. And now that's just an app on your phone, so it's different. But they're like, oh, they have this magical tool that's telling them what to buy and how much they're going to make. And no, it's not that. It's just like any other product you're doing the research on. You have to understand the market and how many are available and what you're paying for it. And what kind of seller are you? Do you want to flip things fast or, wait? And so that was a real education back in the day, and the technology has really changed. Now, there's nothing wrong with looking them up on your phone with
Right.
an app. It's just, what are you going to do with that information? Because it's not, Aladdin telling you, buy this and you're going to get this sale.
It
You
would
still
be
have to
different
filter.
maybe if it said like, there's a 100% sell-through rate or an 80% sell-through rate within 30 days or something. I don't think they probably give enough information. And I did see when I first started researching this that people had these little devices, and I thought, oh, I wonder if I could justify buying one of those because I've always been very frugal, very thrifty. I don't like to spend money on things that aren't a necessity, but I thought better of it at the time, and now I'm like, I'm so glad I didn't do that because I've kind of shifted away from books. I'll still sell them, but it's not my main focus. My mom got a mailer a few months ago for a church book sale, and she was like, "Oh, why don't you go?" And I was like, it's less appealing to me now that I have found other things that are more profitable than books and take a lot less effort, at least for me.
Yeah. And they are a lot of work if like I don't know how Eileen, the book lady, does it, because she just sells these big sets of books and the decorative books, and just she comes at it from every angle. But books are heavy.
Yeah.
So, if you have to carry them in like upstairs, and that's where your eBay room is or whatever, and it's, schlepping them from the store to your car and then out of your car, and like if you're selling hundreds of books, that's a heavy product.
The day that I did the fill your cart for $10, I had to carry boxes of books back into the house. And I was like, why did I do this? And I probably took half of them back.
Because it
And
was
I
fill your
was
cart for $10. That's why you did
right.
it.
Well, and I grabbed all these romance novels because I had all this extra space in my cart and I was burnt out and I had gone through all the stuff I wanted to. And I'm like, well, I might as well fill my cart with sets of romance novels. And then I got home and I organized them all by, author or they all grouped together somehow. And they're in my death pile. They're just still sitting there and they're all in separate boxes. I have all the shipping information. I'm just not excited about them. I'm just like kind of dreading. Do you know what I mean? Part of me wants to
Yes.
take those back too, because I'm like, is it really worth the hassle? I could have all these shelves back if I would just take those books back.
You mean like redonate them?
Yes.
Yeah.
Since I didn't really pay anything, the way I'm looking at it, I didn't pay anything for them. It was $10
Right.
for the whole cart. The Bible paid for all of it. Plus, I got a bunch of books for my kids in that deal too. So I'm like, I got all these books. It doesn't really hurt my feelings to get rid of them again. So I may end up doing that. I may not. I don't know.
Well, and you could just donate them to the library because
That's
they have
true.
their library sales, and kind of just put them in
Yeah,
a different sphere instead of taking them right back to the store you got them at. So
right. They could go somewhere else. That's true.
yeah. So now we didn't talk about where you live.
Okay,
So
so I live in South Central Montana. Billings is the city that I grew up in. It's the biggest city in Montana. There's still only 100,000 people here, but we lived out of state for a while and we moved back in March and we bought property about 25 minutes outside of town. And we are building a homestead from scratch, basically. So we spent the summer building a shop and living in our camper. And it was great. I wasn't really sure what to expect, but it was way easier than I thought it was going to be. I think with the weather being nice, we spent all of our time outside, me and the girls. Basically all day every day we were just playing outside. And now that the weather is cold, we've come back to my mom's house. We had planned on living in the shop over the winter, but we ran into an issue with the spray foam. It's kind of a big ordeal, but so we lived out there for I think 4 months or so, and that kind of changed how I did things too, because I was not in town. It was about 25 to 30 minutes to the closest thrift store, um, and also living in the camper, I didn't have a lot of space for stuff. We were living a very minimalistic lifestyle. So I did bring a lot of the books that I had bought, I put in a tote and just slid them under the camper with some padded envelopes and, tape and all that stuff. So I did have some of my stuff there. My mom was so kind to let me leave a lot of my inventory at her house in her basement, um, which was kind of a pain because if I sold something, then I had to drive into town. If it wasn't a day I was already planning on going, we had to drive into town so I could ship out this thing. So that was a little bit of a pain, but I just kept sourcing and kept doing what I was doing. But instead of going all the way into town to thrift stores, I started sourcing through online auctions. And I know you've been talking about this a lot in your podcast lately. There are two local online auctions. One of them does the thrift stores and some other like estates and stuff. And the other one mainly just does estates. And so that has been a good way for me to source because I can do the research from home during nap time, in the morning, at night, just whenever I have some time, I can scroll through. And what I find the cool thing about that is the people that run the auctions typically have a pretty good idea of what things are valuable, and that's why those things are going in auction. So instead of me walking into an entire thrift store and having to figure out what obscure things have value, someone's kind of already picked them out and set them aside. And sometimes some of these items just go for nothing. Other times they go for a lot. People see the value in them. But it's been a fun way for me to learn about a lot of things without having to drag all the kids to the thrift store and spend a couple hours and then everyone's tired and cranky. We can just stay home and then there's a pickup day and I can run down and we can go pick them up and go visit grandma or whatever. So that's been a good way for me to source. I bought a few duds, but I've had some really good success. Like one of the things that I bought it was a lot. It was an Oculus like VR headset and a
Uh-huh.
pair of tennis shoes. And the other thing that I've noticed about the auctions is they have a lot of typos in their titles, and I think people miss things or things are mislabeled. So it said like toga tennis shoes and VR headset. So I bid $1. I bid $2 and I won it. And I was like, cool. I'll get this headset and hopefully be able to sell that. And the shoes, maybe they'll fit someone I know. Well, they were brand new Skechers Goga Max tennis shoes, even though they were just listed as toga shoes. So I sold the shoes on Poshmark for 20 bucks and
Hmm.
I sold the headset for either 100 or 105 and it sold in less than a week. And
Yeah.
for $2, sold it. I made 125 bucks, minus the fees or whatever. But that was a pretty good flip, I thought, for,
Yeah. Yeah.
something like
And
that.
I've
And
noticed that too about the way they title things. I keep talking about this, but
yes.
it's just mind blowing that they'll just have this box of stuff and they'll just title it things we think are cool. And it'll be like
Oh, we
a
have so
bottle
many of
opener and
those.
a paperweight and just, all these random things. And you might find like zoom in and see like two things that you could sell. And the other day I got some of my winnings shipped to me, and there was this lighter in there. What looked like a lighter, but it was a cloisonne sleeve for like a Bic lighter, like decorative and pretty. And
Hmm,
that wasn't even shown in the pictures. And I'm like, well, what is this? And I looked it up and I sold it for like 30 bucks in a couple days. It was just a
awesome.
little freebie thing thrown in there, and it wasn't even what I was bidding on. But so I love those. I like that they label their lots just in these crazy ways. Like nobody's going to search for that. Nobody's going to search for things we think are cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And at first I kind of thought it was annoying. I'm like, I don't want to zoom in. Like I want it to just say exactly what it is. But now I'm kind of using that to my benefit because I
Yes.
don't think people zoom in that closely, or maybe some do, but
Or
and I've
maybe they
also
only
had
search. They're only searching for
right.
what was it? Lalique ornaments. That
Yeah,
came up.
right.
I'm like, yeah, that people are all over this. They're bidding on it. You want the box lots. Let's see, I won a lot of baby clothes, like hand crocheted baby clothes and embroidered napkins, little small linens like that. And it was labeled something like old handmade stuff. It wasn't vintage baby clothes, hand crocheted,
Right.
embroidered napkins and tablecloth. So it's almost like you become a real treasure hunter and you don't search for things anymore. Maybe enough to get you to find the auction, because I have pretty much everything shipped to me. And so I'm focusing on small, lightweight things. And I just love these box lots of random odds and ends because there's always treasures in there, and it shows up at my door and I'm like, oh, what's in here?
There have been a lot of times that I've gone to pick up my stuff and I get home and there's some random stuff in the bottom and I'm like, I didn't know this was in there. And, there was like a really nice new beanie in one of the boxes of stuff and like a thermos. And I bid on a lot of Christmas decor last week for me, not to sell,
Uh-huh.
just for me. And there's also locally, we have a Facebook group. It's called Bid It to Win It. And people post their stuff in there. The bidding has to start at $1. And you have the option of a 24, 48, or 72-hour auction. And it's just local people bidding. And you never know if it's something's going to go for $2 or $50 or whatever. It's just kind of luck of the draw. So, in the bottom of my Christmas decor was a bag of like bikini wax beads. So I put that on Bid It to Win It. And then I took all the decor that I didn't want out of the box and put it on Bid It to Win It. And I sold that stuff for more than the box of decor cost me. So I got the
Mhm.
decor that I wanted for free, basically, made a few extra dollars. And the people, it's all porch pickups. So they all come to your house and pick it up. And so I don't have to do anything except take a picture and put it on the site. And it doesn't have to be eBay quality pictures. It's like throw it on the kitchen table, take a picture of it, and post it up there. So that's really cool. From that Facebook group, I got a set of cloth diapers, brand new in the bags with the tags on for $2. And I just sold them this week for $90. So that was an awesome flip that I was pretty excited about. So that worked out good. They
So did
sat
you sell
for
those on eBay or on your local site?
The sale was on eBay. Or actually,
Uh-huh.
it was on Poshmark. I rarely post on Poshmark or Mercari. I do occasionally for certain things. I find that like I don't do a lot of clothing, but the shoes I think are a good Poshmark item. And then the cloth diapers too. I did have those both on eBay, but they both actually did sell on Poshmark. But I think those are the only two Poshmark sales I've had in the last few months. So I don't use it a lot, but I did for those. But yeah, so that's another way that I can source is that Bid It to Win It group. And it's kind of fun. You never know what you're going to find on there. So
Mhm.
that's a good one.
And so have you bought things on there to sell on eBay?
I actually did. Last week I won. I actually paid up $50 for it, which is way more than I like to spend on anything. It's an Our Generation ambulance. So you know the
Uh-huh.
dolls, the 18-inch dolls, it's the ambulance, but it's brand new. It's got the tags on it. It's got all the accessories still in the plastic. And the comps on eBay, the used ones are going for a couple $100. The last new one that sold, I think, was like $595 or something. So I thought, even if I only sell it for a couple $100, which would be great. If I could sell it for more since it's brand new, they're out of stock online. So I'm thinking someone for Christmas maybe will, buy this for their kid. The problem I've run into is I cannot find a box big enough. So that's on my to-do list is to go find a box big enough or Frankenbox a way to ship it because I'm afraid that it'll be too big to ship USPS and I'll have to go UPS. Because I listed it with the dimensions that I thought and it was showing local pickup only. So when I reached out to eBay, they were like, "Oh, it's because you have it as USPS Ground Advantage and it's too big." So I need to find a box, but I'm hoping that that turns out to be a nice flip, and it might not be. And if it's not, I have three girls that would probably, they actually were with me when I went to go pick it up, and they are so bummed that mommy's gonna sell it. It's not for us.
Oh no.
So it
Yeah.
might end up being a Christmas present, but we'll see.
Well, I'm getting into the American Girl and Our
Yeah.
Generation dolls. I started after talking to so many people on this podcast that are having success with the dolls and the clothing and the accessories. And
Yeah.
I have to learn it because I don't have little ones that, play with it and I'm not around it. But
Right.
I did find three of the American Girl Welly Wisher dolls.
Oh,
It's like a line of their dolls
okay.
at a thrift store. I mean, I'm like, I'm gonna start looking for these dolls. And like the next day I was out, I saw them.
Oh,
And I
awesome.
don't know if they've been there, you know how when you are intentional about something and then you start seeing it everywhere. But yeah, they were like $2. They're immaculate condition, you know how some dolls are written on or have dog teeth marks
Yeah.
on them or whatever. Um, and I've got them up for like $30 a piece right now, just to see
Awesome.
how it works. They all have the original outfits on.
Cool.
Their hair hasn't been cut. You
That's a
know,
miracle.
all the things that happen. So, and then I have seen the bags of clothing occasionally in the thrift stores, and I love doing those bags of anything because
Yeah.
again, it's like it's a mystery. What's in there that I can't see?
It
Um,
is fun when there that element of surprise. You don't know what it's going to be. It could be great, it could be a dud, but it's just fun and exciting to find out.
yeah, and I respect the store's policy. Don't open the bag,
Yeah.
you kind of move it around, flip it over, look and see what you can see, but there's always stuff in the middle that you can't see.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
anyway, okay. Now have you always lived in Montana or have you
I
lived?
grew up here.
Okay.
We did move, so I lived in Tennessee for a while, which is where I met my husband. And then we moved back to Montana and got married in 2017.
Hmm.
And then we moved to Arizona for a couple of years, and it was too hot. My husband does commercial refrigeration and HVAC stuff. He spends a lot of time on roofs, and we were in Tucson, and he was like,
Ooh.
"This is brutal. It's hot. It's miserable. I don't want to be here." So we moved back to Montana. And then we moved to West Virginia for almost 3 years. He got a job out there that paid for our move. And then we just decided like we miss Montana. My parents are getting older. Um, my dad lives like in the middle of nowhere in a tiny house that he built. And I just thought it would be nice to be close to family, especially with young kids. It's hard to raise young kids away from all of your family. And my husband's
Mhm.
family's in Arizona. So we decided to move back. So we moved back in March, and that's when we bought the land and decided that we're gonna build everything ourselves. And it's been a really fun adventure. It's gonna be all self-funded, and we're gonna build everything basically ourselves. We're gonna try not to hire too many contractors. We hired a contractor for the spray foam. He's not a contractor. It was a neighbor, and he did a very bad job. But it's okay. We're moving on. We're moving up. We're gonna do a YouTube channel.
Oh,
I've been
good.
recording as we've been going because I think there's people like that DIY type of thing. So I've recorded stuff all summer basically. I'm learning how to use the editing stuff to make I'm working on our first YouTube video right now. So our
Yeah.
channel is
Yeah,
going to be
you'll get
called
it.
Homesteading Montana, and
Excellent.
basically just building from scratch. So it's good to be back. I don't like the cold weather. I love snow. I think it's beautiful. I am always cold though, and I don't like it when it's cold. But that's okay. The nice thing about eBay is I don't really have to go out a lot, just, driving here and there to pick things up. And my husband's willing to drop stuff off at the post office for me all the time because he's got to go in anyways. So he's going into town. If I have packages, he takes them for me and drops them off, and it works out well. So,
Well, I was expecting you to be talking about it's difficult to find things in a rural area, but it
well,
seems like you have resources that you don't have
there
to
are.
find
And
anything.
I think that the types of things that I find here are just different than people would find in big cities, I think. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of Western stuff here. There's a lot of cold weather stuff here. There's a lot of, that show Yellowstone kind of
Mhm.
made Montana and this whole Western side of the country, like it's like all the rage or whatever. So I think that Western style stuff is selling pretty well. Western decor, that type of thing. There's a lot of like higher end winter clothing and stuff. I just don't
Mhm.
like doing clothing. I don't want to do the measurements. I don't want to deal with returns because things don't fit because I offer free returns. And I just don't really want to go there. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
not something I'm interested in, doesn't make me excited. But I've also sourced from garage sales, a couple of estate sales, free piles are like my favorite. I'll find leftovers from a garage sale that people leave out in just a pile for free. I have sold quite a few things from free piles. I found a piece of Weller pottery, some books, and I'm trying to think of what else came from a free pile. I found some dirt bike parts, which I know nothing about, but my husband and his brother both raced dirt bikes their whole lives, and so they knew exactly what it was when I brought it home. Trying to think, just like random things that I can find for free, and then if it doesn't sell for a lot, it's okay. I was trying to qualify for the eBay international shipping at one point when I was new, and I knew I had to sell 100 items. So from this pile of free stuff, I had all these books, and the comps weren't great. But I thought, even if I'm not making a lot of profit, if they're going to sell quickly, it's going to boost my number of sales, and then I'll qualify for the eBay international shipping more quickly. So I listed them all, and then my phone would ka-ching, and I'm all excited, and it's like, oh, this book sold for, $6.99. So, I'm gonna make a few bucks and it's fine. But
Well, but you have to do what you have to do to get where you
right,
want to go and jump through the hoops. And I think that was smart just to get sales. And, sometimes people get below standard on their eBay account for whatever reasons. And one of the things is you got to get more sales to bring up your percentages. So you
yeah,
just do what you have to do to move forward to your goal. And looking back, you're like, yeah, I wasn't real profitable, but I got where I needed to
right.
be.
Well, yeah, and it was a little more work, but I mean, I'm not afraid of hard work, and having to put in
Living in
hard work.
Montana on a homestead, I would say
Yeah,
you're not.
right, exactly. So, I mean, it's just kind of like comes with the territory, but it helped me get to where I wanted to be, like you said. So put in the extra work in the beginning to get where you want to be quicker. And then, I just got the email, I don't know, a couple weeks ago that I qualified for the international shipping. So I'm like, yay, hopefully I will have an increase in sales. We'll see. So
Yeah, absolutely. Now, how many items do you have listed?
I think right now I only have about 80. So
80.
one of the nice things about eBay for me is that I have so much going on. We spent so much time building over the summer, and then having the three little kids, and like I cook all of our meals from scratch, so I do a lot of meal planning and prepping and that type of thing. I bake all of our bread products. Like I do a lot of extra things, so I don't always have a lot of time. But there's kind of a correlation between how much effort you put in and what you get out. So if things are slow for a while, like if I'm not able to put a lot into eBay, that's okay because I've put in a lot of work before. So those things will keep selling. And I just know that down the road things might slow down because I haven't been adding as much. But when I have more time, I can put more things, I can list more things, I can get more stuff on there, and then my sales will go back up. But it's not like, okay, I'm so busy for these next 2 weeks, I'm not going to be able to list anything. But that doesn't mean everything just comes to a halt and my eBay account is no more. Do you know what I mean? And it's not like a normal job where it's like, hey, boss, I can't come to work for 2 weeks. Can I still keep my job? So it's kind of there when I need it or want it. And if I need to take a step back, I can take a step back and it's okay. And that's kind of the beauty of doing your own thing is you decide what you're able or willing to do to put into it. And if it's not a lot right now, it's not a lot. And maybe some other times I'm going to have a lot more free time and then I'll be able to, put more in. But I've really been trying to, I've told myself I'm going to list bare minimum one thing a day, every day, no excuses, no matter what. My goal is three a day, but some days are just so chaotic that one is my bare minimum. So that's what I've been really trying to do just to keep myself in the algorithm and keep things going. But at this point in my life, I don't think I'll be a huge seller with a store and, hundreds of items listed. But that's okay. That's the beauty of eBay is you can make it work for what works for you and make it fit around your lifestyle. So that's kind of probably one of my favorite things about it is I can take a step back or I can really dive in and, put a lot into it.
Well, and with three small children, I don't know how you have time to do anything.
Some days I have more time than others. So the weather's a big factor. If we can go play outside and burn off some of their energy and I can sit on the computer while they're, playing in the yard or whatever, it kind of depends. And some days I've got lots of time and other days are just nothing gets done as far as eBay, and that's fine. And I've just kind of accepted that because I think because I'm not trying to build this empire right now, this eBay empire for myself, it's okay with me. Maybe someday that would be really cool, but I'm also going to start homeschooling my oldest next year. So that's going to be more of my time that's taken doing other things. But like I said, it'll always be there. I'll always find things, I'm sure, and I can list them, and it'll be good. It's a nice flexible way of just bringing in a little extra income. I'm not trying to replace a full-time income. I'm not trying to, buy a car. I just want to help build our homestead quicker because it takes money. And when we're paying as we go, and there's only so much we can do at one time. So if I can add some money to the pot to, add the next thing, then that's great. It's just getting us closer to our goal. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely. Now, what was your professional life before you became a stay-at-home mom?
I did real estate for a short period of time. And then I decided once we decided like I want to have kids and stay home and do all these things, I kind of backed away from real estate. I worked as a receptionist at a hospital for a year. That was fun. I worked in a vascular surgery clinic. So I learned
Oh,
all kinds of cool stuff. Um, so I never really like had a profession. Well, I guess kind of I was a realtor, but I've just kind of done all sorts of things. I was a bartender for years. That's how I met my husband. So not really like a professional job, but that's
well, I
okay.
mean, just, you don't go from zero to stay-at-home mom of three. There's stuff in there, but
Yes,
you
lots of
seem
stuff in
to
between.
have good business sense. And I really love uh the moms out there that blend this with blend this with their life, because you can't go back and raise your kids over again. You
Right.
get one shot, and eBay is going to be there. Reselling has been there since the dawn of time.
Yep.
uh, you know Back in the 50s, consignment stores and garage sales started in the 70s, and wheeling and dealing and barter and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
reselling is not going away. um,
Right.
but
Exactly.
it is addicting, like you said, when you
It
find
totally is.
something for $1 and you sell it for 150, and you're like, "Ooh, what else is out
Yeah.
there?"
Once I started, I just was like, I just can't stop. And I'm always telling my husband, "Do you want to know what I sold today?" He's like, "Yes, tell me." So I tell him all the things that I sold. And some days I sell a couple things, and some days, sometimes I go a week without selling anything. And I'm okay with that. Like I said, I'm not trying to turn it into this huge thing right now. Maybe someday that would be really cool. But right now, I'm okay with sporadic sales. And I've also been trying to really hone in on the types of things that I sell. Like, I want to turn and burn. I don't want to store things for months on end, especially because I don't have a lot of space. So I want to bring things in and I want to list it and I want to sell it. And I typically will list for $1 or two lower than the lowest price, as long as it's not extreme. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
But so for example, I bought a lot from a gal probably 3 or 4 months ago, and it was some Rodan and Fields stuff, some sunscreen and some other creams. I can't remember. The sunscreen, I don't think there were like two other listings maybe. And she had 4 bottles, and I paid $5 a bottle, and I sold the lot for 120.
Hmm.
So that was a good flip. The other things, there were more, there was like 8 to 10 of them listed. And so I just looked at the lowest price. They were all pretty close, and I just priced mine $2 lower, and it sold within a week. And so that's kind of how I like to do things. Price it just a couple bucks lower, just enough to incentivize somebody to
Hmm.
pick mine, and then I can get it out. And then I don't have to deal with storing it and all of that stuff. So that's kind of how I like to do things. Turn and burn.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a supply and it's easy for you to get things,
Yeah.
I've come over to that mindset recently, and just I like selling things. I don't
Yeah.
want to sit and wait.
Right. I don't like
I like
storing things. I
I
like
like
selling things.
shipping things, and like, oh, this person's going to get this thing that they is unusual that they really want. And I got a great feedback the other day. I've been selling those empty perfume bottles,
Oh, cool.
and I bought those on an online auction, and it was labeled really weird. It was just like um, Chanel bags and bottles or something. And you would think it was handbags, but it was
Yeah.
like shopping, the store bags and boxes
Oh,
and containers. Chanel stuff to put things in. But anyway, there were, I think, 5 or 6 of these perfume bottles that had the original box and this beautiful glass top. And I was like, somebody's going to buy that. So I got the whole lot of stuff for $3.
Nice.
And it's all almost sold. But this lady bought one of those perfume bottles and she left this feedback. Let me pull this up so I can read it, because this is what makes us keep doing eBay. So she said, purchase item for 60th birthday, visual display for centerpieces for a friend. The bottle is in excellent condition. The original box is in pristine condition and is the best purchase of an empty bottle with box I have purchased so far. Packaged with TLC and shipped quickly. Highly recommend seller to all and will purchase from again. Now, here's the thing is, like, she took the time to write this glowing feedback about an empty bottle and a box. There was nothing in it. And so I reached out to her and I said, thank you so much for that wonderful feedback. Thank you for letting me know what you're doing with this, because I often wonder when I sell these empty boxes, and like, what are people doing with it? And another person that bought those was an art student. She was making a project. And,
cool.
You know, people do collect empty perfume bottles, but there's a whole lot of other things that's going on with them too. So, you know, that helps me be a better seller when I can get information from my buyer, like, what are you doing with
what they're doing with it. It gives you ideas for what you could possibly sell in the future.
Yes.
And it's cool that she took the time to do that. I
know. And she was just a very classy, kind lady to do that. I was like, I really appreciate you telling me the story. It helps me be a better seller.
Yeah, that's cool. I love getting positive feedback. I put a little handwritten note in every single thing that I ship that just says, you know, thank you for your purchase and for supporting us. And if you have any questions, please reach out. And depending on the item, I like to put a little joke at the bottom because I think that kind of lightens the mood. And I think that's what makes people leave me positive feedback. In the beginning, I got a lot of positive feedback and I kind of chalked it up to the, you know, the personal touches. So something that I've been selling a lot of is vintage Kirby vacuums and vacuum parts.
Okay.
I heard somewhere when I was first researching or, you know, learning about eBay that some vacuums and parts sell well. So I went on Facebook Marketplace and somebody was selling 3 vintage Kirby vacuums. They'd been listed forever. And so I offered him $30 and she said, sure, please just come get them. So I went and bought them. And then there was another listing. A lady had one listed for, I think, $50. It was a garage sale listing. And I saw it in the pictures and I asked her how much. She said 50. And I said, if you decide that you would like to sell for $10, please let me know. And she said, oh, that's way too low. And I said, okay, that's fine. Well, the next day she messaged me and said, if you still want it for $10, please come take it. So I went and got it. So now I have 4 vacuums. So I started researching and realized that so many of these parts are just selling for boatloads. And I think later that week, all in the same week, I ended up with 5 vacuums. There was another person selling a vintage, it's called a dual Sanatronic 80. It's from like the 50s or 60s. And it had all of the accessories with it and everything. So, and I picked that one up for $30. So for $70, I have these 5 vacuums. And I just tallied it up. So far, I've made $778 off of vacuums and parts. So I've sold 2 full vacuums, and then I've sold the cords, the bags, the handles, the motors, the hoses, the attachments. All of those different parts. So that has been fun for me. When I find a vacuum, I get so excited. And my husband the other day said, man, I'm sure glad all those vacuum parts are out of here. And I was like, don't look in the closet because I just got another free one last week. Someone had one listed. Someone had one listed forever. And so I sent him a message and said, would you consider $10? And he said, you can have it for free if you can come get it today. So I just drove over and got it. And so now we have another vacuum that I need to part out. But
so when people ask you, what do you sell on eBay? Oh, vacuum cleaner parts.
Yes.
And you have this random list. Like I'll be like, oh, empty bottles and trash
Yeah,
and
right. Well, but not just vacuum parts from the 50s, like really
right.
old vacuum parts. But we had a Kirby when I was a kid, and man, that thing was a workhorse. So it's been actually pretty fun. I can take the Kirby's all apart and put them back together, and it's pretty cool. So, and the people that bought them have just been thrilled. One guy bought a whole vacuum for $160, and then was so pleased about it. He left me good feedback. He also sent me a message and I said, well, I have more accessories that go with that vacuum. So then he bought more to go with that. And he said, I really just bought it because my mom died and it just reminds me of her, some nostalgia. It's exactly the same vacuum that we had when I was growing up. And that's why I wanted it. And I just thought, man, how cool that I have the exact thing that this guy wanted to remember his mom. Like just a sweet story. So
Well, and vacuum cleaner bags are another thing I look for.
yeah,
I haven't found any really good ones lately. Usually the package is open and there's a few
yeah.
missing, and but the parts, they don't make them anymore.
Right. Well, and those Kirby's were m made to last forever. I haven't sold any of the bags like that they sell, like that go on the inside, but like the cloth bags that came with those old ones. I sold a cloth bag from a vintage Kirby for $76, I think,
Really?
just for the bag. So, I mean, people and people restore them. There's Kirby groups on Facebook, and there's people that restore them and they shine them up and they make them look brand new, and that's their hobby. So, I just think it's cool that people keep those.
Well, and good for them for keeping it going and
Yeah.
keeping it out of the landfill and looking for the parts so they can continue to use it for however many more years.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're getting close to the end here.
Okay.
Do you have any other sales you want to share?
Um, I did sell a knitting machine that I bought off of Facebook
I
Marketplace.
saw that.
Yes, so I bought it for I can't remember if it was 70 or $75, and it was missing a part, not an important part. I can't remember what it was that it was missing, but I disclosed it. Um, Something that I hadn't thought about at the time was like how big of a pain it was going to be to ship it. But I just estimated on the shipping dimensions and all of that stuff, and I had it listed for maybe a couple weeks. And one night we were getting ready for bed and my phone went off and someone had sent me an offer. I think I had it listed for 350. Someone had sent me an offer for like I think 300 or something. And I was so excited, and as I was running downstairs to tell my husband, um was yeah, so I was running down to tell him, and then when I clicked on it, it was gone. They had retracted it. And I was like, oh man, I didn't even know you could do that. So I was all bummed. And then half an hour later, I got another offer for 280. And so we chatted back and forth, and she said, if you can get the shipping costs lower, I'll pay more for it. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
well, I don't know. I have to get packing materials. I'm fine with 280 if you are, because I knew even if she pays extra in shipping, like it doesn't matter if it's she's paying for the shipping or the item, because I'll just, even if she overpays for shipping, I'll just keep that extra. Do you know what I'm saying? Instead of
Uh-huh.
selling it for 300 and lowering the shipping for $20. So we just sold it as is. Shipping it was kind of a nightmare. I used pool noodles and bubble wrap and all kinds of everything that I could think of. I ended up shipping it in 2 boxes, and for like almost exactly what she paid in shipping. So it worked out fine. I think I might have made $10 on the shipping. But she paid over $100 to ship it. I think like 120 something. And I was so nervous, and it was heavy and it was long. It was really long, like 36 inches long or something. And I just waited anxiously and was constantly checking the tracking, and it arrived and she left me great feedback and she loves it. So I was really happy about that one. And then the other cool sale I had was one of these local auctions. I won a set of Royal Albert bone china, which again, I didn't really think about shipping when I bid on it. I just knew it was the Lady Carlisle pattern. And I had done some research and I knew it sold for a lot. And it was some dinner plates and some salad plates. So I sold the salad plates fairly quickly for $95. I think there was 4 of them. And they went to West Virginia, which I had just moved back from West Virginia. So I wrote a little note to the lady and told her that we lived there. And then she when she got them, she messaged me and said, "These are so beautiful, and how cool that you lived in West Virginia. I'd love to visit Montana someday, yada yada." And then I said, "Well," and she said, "These are way more beautiful than I imagined." And I said, "I also have some dinner plates listed if you're interested. I'll give you a deal if you buy all of them." And so she asked me how much I wanted, and I said $200. So she bought those for $200. So then I shipped or wrapped up all the dinner plates. I think I had 4 of those, either 4 or 6, I can't remember, and shipped them to her. And then a couple weeks later, I was looking through that same auction, and there was more of the same pattern of the Lady Carlisle in that Royal Albert, and it was a tea set. It was a 3-piece tea set with the teapot, the sugar, and the creamer, and it was in the box, in the original box. And I thought, oh, that would be so easy to ship because I can just pack that box in another box. And so I bid on that, and I think I got it for like $18 maybe, or maybe it was $28. I can't even remember now. But I sold that for $174. Not to the same lady, but it was still a good sale for me. So now every time it was from one of the thrift stores in the area, it was from their auction. So every time they have a new auction come up, I'm always looking. Maybe there's more of that because it's the same person probably donating it to this rescue mission
Okay.
thrift store. So that was a good one. And I sold, somebody had bought the wrong type of toner for their HP printer. They had it listed on Facebook. It was 5 of the big cartridges that they sold me for $50, and I sold in 2 lots, the color and the black, for a total of $390. And those sold
Oh,
in less than a week. Those sold quickly. So that was a good flip. And that was something that I also paid more for up front than I like to, but I was pretty certain that it was going to be worth it, and it was in the end. So
well, gosh, you've done a lot. You don't sound new at all.
oh, well, I feel like it oftentimes. I just feel like, man, what am I even doing sometimes? But I'm really learning a lot from your Facebook group. There is so much helpful information in there, and people are so kind. I'm in another thrifting group, or a reselling group, and people are a lot less friendly in that one. So I typically go to your group to ask questions as a newbie because people are kind in their responses and they're not judgmental and like,
You don't want to have arrows shot in your back for asking a question.
well, yeah, it's like, come on, I'm new. Like, just answer the question. Don't tell me why I'm dumb. I already feel dumb. Don't make me feel worse. So
Yeah, I
I
mean, and
really
we're
like that.
all, that's why we moderate my group the way
Yeah,
we do is everybody's new at some point, and you
right,
shouldn't be afraid to ask a question because,
right.
I mean, there are people on social media that never say a word. They just
Yeah.
read and watch, and I hate that because if they need help, there's people that'll help you. Just ask, and
Well, and I actually get help from the group. It's people that are so willing to help and offer advice. And in the other group, it's more just like snarky responses and sarcasm. And it's just like, okay, that's not why I'm here. I would like to learn. And,
right, like I'm
like
trying
I can
to.
appreciate sarcasm because I am a sarcastic person. But when someone's genuinely looking for help, that's not really the time or place.
Yeah, we just don't be rude and unkind because trust
Yeah,
me, everywhere in life, you're going to need help with stuff
right.
and you get back what you put out there. So if you, um, you know, ridicule people for not knowing something, that's going to come back and bite you. That's
Yeah.
just the way I look at it. But yeah, and there's there's some people they're like they just love helping people. That's
Yeah.
I used to go on Yahoo groups and answer questions about eBay because I was like, oh, I know that. I can tell you. You're wired that way. It's like, oh, this is so easy for me. I can tell you how to do that. And
Hmm.
it's something that somebody might be very overwhelmed by, but
Yes.
really just break it down into steps. It's not.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is like you see this whole eBay process of the listing and the shipping and dealing with customers. It's all very overwhelming. It's just separate pieces that you eventually string together and you get good at all of them. So
Right. Well, and it's hard when something comes up that you weren't expecting, maybe your first return or something like that. Because when I had my first, well, I've only ever had one return, but it threw me into a panic. I was like, what do I do? I don't know how to handle this. And I think I asked in the group and people were very helpful and it all got figured out and everything, it was fine.
yeah,
It wasn't the end of the world.
I have a friend who has a house full of stuff. And I've been trying to get her to do eBay and
Yeah.
helping her and doing Zoom calls. And she hasn't listed anything. And she's like, yeah, I've been reading about returns and all these, problems and scams. And I'm like, look, if it was all bad, millions of people would not be doing it.
I haven't been scammed a single time yet.
People love to go on the internet and put their bad news and complain,
Right.
and gripe, and, just don't listen to that. You can hear that about a restaurant. All these people, oh, it was terrible, it was awful. And then there's these people over here like, oh, we love it, it's great.
Well,
So
yeah. And think about the car you drive. There's probably millions of people that hate that car that you drive. They drove one once and it was their least favorite car ever, but it works great for you. Like, don't let the naysayers scare you away from doing something.
yeah, exactly. So I don't know if she'll ever get on board, but I
Hopefully.
just it's just you got to put your filters on and pay attention to what's going to help you and focus on that, and just the rest is just noise. Just forget it.
Yep.
So
Yep.
well, thank you again for spending some time with me. And what is your plan for today? Playing with the kiddos?
Yeah, we actually don't have much planned for today. We may go out to the shop later today. My husband got 4 deer, and so we're working on processing those and getting them in the freezer. And
Oh,
it's been, we've been going out in the evenings and doing that. So probably that later. But other than that, I think we have a pretty laid back day for today. So
and what
hopefully
kind
I'll
of
get
temperature are you going to have today?
I think about 50.
Oh,
I
wow.
I didn't actually check today's temperature, but I know it's going to be warmer today than I was expecting for sure. So, or for this whole week, I don't think we're expected to get any snow, and I think it's going to be fairly warm. So
Well,
maybe we'll
yeah.
play outside today.
Take advantage of that before it's
Yeah,
10 below
I
and
know
4 feet of snow and all
it's
that.
coming. Always does.
Okay, Kathryn. Well, thanks again, and we'll watch for your posts on the Facebook group.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
That wraps up this Christmas Day podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll be back next week, which is also next year, with another unique and fascinating guest. Happy selling, everybody!